She says it's all just drama, but every bubble's got to pop. She's gonna see just what you're doing.
There was a time where I could look back 10 years ago and the year would be 1999 and I wasn't born yet. Now when I think of 10 years ago, the year is 2009 and I was a second grader. But I'm here to talk about how I grew up in all of the cartoons that I thoroughly enjoyed while I was growing up. I grew up during a time where cable TV was still dominant and YouTube was just starting up. And by this I mean the 2000s and early 2010s. But I'm not here to be one of those only 90s kids will remember type guys. I'm just here to reminisce and appreciate the shows that shaped my childhood. I just need to get these two shows out of the way. Don't get me wrong, I loved both SpongeBob and The Fairly OddParents while growing up, but I don't really get much of a nostalgic feeling when I watch them. I've known them for so long and I can't imagine growing up without them. I'm just a lot more interested in talking about other shows, but I have to give these two a shout out. Hey, remember the days when Disney Channel's lineup wasn't garbage? I sure do, and Doink Impossible is one of my favorite shows from that time. Alright, in all honesty, I never really watched this show during the day. It was probably around 2008 or 2009. I remember that Disney Channel used to show a bunch of cartoons during the early morning hours, after midnight. Of course, I couldn't stay up during a school night, but let's just say that I got to watch this show a lot during the summer months and weekends, and I have really good memories. This isn't just because it has a really awesome intro, well it does help. But the show is also really fun and great. Alright, so basically the show is about a teenage girl, our titular character, Kim Possible, who also fights crime with her friend, Ra Unstoppable. This concept is pretty unique in a way. Unlike in a lot of shows and movies and comics, anyway, in a lot of properties like this, the hero would often keep their identity a secret and separate from their personal life. But in this show, her parents, and everybody who knows her, also knows about what she does in the meantime. One main point of the show is that she's also a teenage girl. She attends high school, she's a cheerleader, she has crushes. She's a normal teenager who happens to fight crime. The show is really just full of charm. It has humor that can appeal to both kids and adults, and it just looks really good. I mean, I have to say, I love this show's animation. Its character designs are so appealing, and the girls are pretty easy on the eyes too.
Impossible. So what's the sitch? Call me, beat me if you wanna reach me.
He's a phantom.
What a fitting show to talk about next. Although Nick has had a bit of a rough patch recently, I would say that there's room for optimism. But Danny Phantom is a pretty tough act to follow. This show is about a kid named Danny Fenton who's gotten ghost powers. Alright, I'll just let the intro explain it to you.
His molecules got all rearranged.
Okay, so Danny fights ghosts with his friends, Tucker and Sam. Just like Kim Possible, he often struggles between his normal life and his duties. But Danny has the added struggle of having to keep his powers a secret, and also having the community at large being against his alter ego. Considering that the main theme of the show is fighting ghosts, we get some very interesting characters throughout. This show ran for 3 seasons and sadly the 3rd season is trash. I've actually said before in this channel that the 3rd season is where the show gets good. It's all fun in the first 2 seasons, but the 3rd and final season is where things really start to get exciting.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
But I regret that. The 3rd season and the series finale are garbage. If you're going to watch the show, only watch the first 2 seasons. Those are gold. But nonetheless, there are a lot of good memories here. You see, back in my day, Cartoon Network was great, and every show they made was unique and special. But really, you have to admit that this concept is pretty original. The Grim Reaper makes a bet with these 2 children. If he wins, he takes their hamster. If he loses, their hamster lives to see another day, and he's forced to be their slaves for the rest of time. He tries to cheat in the bet, so the kids cheat in the bet, and he loses. And now he's basically stuck as their slave. What a show. When I watched the first couple of episodes for this video, I honestly found some type of sadistic pleasure out of Grim's situation. He's stuck with these kids forever, and what's funnier is that he's the one who let himself be in the situation.
I hate you so much!
I really can't say more. Before today, I haven't seen the show in a couple years, but there's still a lot of good memories to be had. But I wouldn't say it's my favorite Cartoon Network show. Here's a little story. I was in the 4th grade, around 2010-2011, and I just came home from school. Nothing much. I turned on my TV and I put it on Cartoon Network. At 4 o'clock, I started seeing this on my TV. And I was hooked. So, the show's about these 5 kids who are part of this international organization called the Kids Next Door. Their names are Nigel, Hoagie, Cookie, Wally, and Abby, but they are respectively known as numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The kids next door are basically against the things that your parents made you do as a kid, like eating vegetables or going to the dentist. They fight the adults who push that, and there are adult villains who fight the kids next door. There are also the delightful children from down the lane, who are spoiled and completely subservient to adults, and are one of the main recurring antagonists in the show.
Kids next door! Battle stations!
I love this show so much. I mean, I was obsessed with it. Once I found out about it, this show was basically my 4th and 5th grade. I even formed my own little Kids Next Door group with my friend, and we pretend we had a moon base and everything. Even looking back at it now, the concept is so creative and really genius for a kid. Sadly, I can't be part of the Kids Next Door anymore, but I can still watch the episodes, and they're just as good as I remember.
There's 104 days of summer vacation, and school comes along just to end it.
At the risk of sounding redundant at this point, oh boy, do I remember Phineas and Ferb. My fondest memories of the show come from me being stuck in my cousin's house while my mom was at work. I never really enjoyed being there, but watching Phineas and Ferb on their big screen TV was the highlight of the day. Phineas and Ferb are 2 kids who are stuck in summer break, and they're doing something new every day in order to spend it, just like the intro says. Well, I guess my job there is done.
I, for one, am starting to get bored, and boredom is something up with which I will not put. The first thing they're gonna ask us when we get back to school is what do we do over summer?
One thing that it's famous for is its many songs, and they are good. They are so catchy and memorable, and honestly, I'd recommend watching the show just for that, so you can have some good tunes to sing in the shower. But one problem with the show is its formula. The formula isn't bad, on the contrary, it's effective and very funny, but this show lasted 8 years and over 200 episodes, and you can imagine that after a while, the same old shtick that they use in every episode gets really old. The show doesn't deserve that though, because it's really good. It's funny, self-referential, in a good way, and loaded with charm. If you were to start watching this, I'd recommend taking a couple breaks in between seasons or something. It took me a couple years of not watching it before I could fully appreciate its brilliance.
So ready for you.
Of course, not every show that I watched as a kid has aged particularly well, but I feel like the ones that I mentioned have, and I'm glad that I was able to enjoy these shows while they were still on. That's about it. Peace guys, I'm most of the best.
You are busted.